And welcome back. As mentioned before, joining us is Dr. June Sumer from the Association of Caribbean States to talk to us a little bit about what they're doing here in Belize and across the region. We're so excited to have you, Dr. Sumer. Welcome to Belize and to Open Your Eyes.
Thank you.
So just before we start the conversation, if you could give our viewers a little bit of information about ACS.
Well, the ACS is an intergovernmental organization that was formed in 1994 to ensure cooperation, coordination, and concerted effort between the English-speaking Caribbean and the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. So we are like a bridge across the Caribbean Sea.
Yeah.
And we concentrate on, first of all, for me, the primary focus is the Caribbean Sea and protection of the Caribbean Sea. And around that, we have directorates that look at issues pertinent to the sea, including sustainable tourism, transport, trade, and disaster risk reduction. We also have a Caribbean Sea Commission that oversees all of the work that we do with regard to protection of the Caribbean Sea.
So in a lot of ways, it's very different from CARICOM, because when people hear about Caribbean states, they automatically think, well, we have already CARICOM, but there is a distinct difference.
Oh yes, we have 33 member states.
Right.
And our member states are English-speaking, Spanish-speaking, and French-speaking, and Dutch-speaking also. So we do everything in 3 languages. And we have 25 full member states of varying sizes, so our smallest being St. Kitts and Nevis. And we have huge member states in Latin America, like Mexico, Colombia, and Venezuela. So, and we also have the Central American states. And we are a little different to CARICOM, I mean, because of the fact that we have all of these different members. But more than that, we are a little more focused in terms of our areas. We have specialized areas. So CARICOM has a broad spectrum of functions.
Yeah. And I think obviously that is one of the important distinctions to make, because when we speak of CARICOM, we speak a lot of integration. When you talk about ACS, I appreciate obviously setting the tone in terms of the differences between the members. Now, if I am to compare Venezuela with Belize or Venezuela with St. Kitts, the differences between not just the landscape, but the challenges that they face within the countries are drastically different. How does an organization like ACS work to be able to ensure that coordinated efforts are effective across the different political landscapes in the countries?
Well, I have to start by saying we are not a political organization. I started distinctly by saying that we were an organization established to look at cooperation. And we recognized from the beginning that we had this diversity. So we came together because of that diversity. We recognized that we had certain strengths. Bigger countries have certain strengths, but all of us have a voice. And it is an amazing thing at an ACS ministerial that everyone has a voice. So Venezuela's voice is no different to St. Kitts' voice. And we recognize the challenges, and we try to set priorities so that all of our priorities would encompass all of our countries. We cannot be everything to everybody. And so we recognize our strengths, and so we ensure that the cooperation that we undertake will benefit all of our member states in some way or the other.
And ACS is quite a young, relatively young organization, and I of course can imagine that it was established to fill a gap. How do you determine, well, we know that there are 5 concentrated areas that ACS focuses on. How is that determined?
How are the gaps determined? Oh, we do assessments to see what we need. We also look at national plans to ensure that what we do would be what the countries would want us to do. You have to be relevant. You have to add value. And so we look at all of these things to ensure that we, whatever goes into our action plans, whatever is decided by our ministerials, will be looking at added value. So that is how we do it, and we ensure that when we do the action plans, that all of the countries are involved and have buy-in on these action plans. And action plans are decided by the heads of government, not just at the ministerial level. So governments have buy-in.
Dr. Sumer, let's talk a bit about the purpose of your visit as to why you're here in Belize.
Well, I have many reasons for coming to Belize. The first was to say thank you to the government and people of Belize, because my nomination for as Secretary General was ratified in Belize at the summit in Placencia, and I had great support from Belize. So I wanted to say thank you. It's my first opportunity. I have only been in office since August. And then I wanted to meet with the government officials to speak about how we can work together more closely. It is not an easy thing when you have 33 members to have an understanding of members from a distance. So you have to go to the countries to see exactly what they need, to see what their priorities are. At the time, priorities will change. To have a feel with regard to how you can assist. And also to see how our countries, because we deal with cooperation, to see how the best practices in one country can also benefit other countries. And so we came to do that, to meet with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to meet with the Ministry of Trade, Environment, and so on. These are our focus areas. And we also came to meet with the Climate Change Center. So we met with the 5 Cs, and we have so many synergies. And so we are looking to sign an MOU for us to work closer together. One of the things that we never want to do is to duplicate effort. We have very few resources in the region, and we have to use them efficiently. And so by working with organizations like that one, very compatible, complementary organizations, then we are able to do even more for the region. And everyone has a place. So.
And I can imagine that in this very, very tiny world that we live in, as it relates to trade, the incentives to partner with other regions or other countries might be very enticing. How do you encourage that buy-in among the ACS members to stay as a part of the association and to cling to that buy-in and to see it as, you know, something that's worth it?
Relevance of an organization is really important. As I said, our organization has been around since 1994. And it's not an organization that has been in the news. It has not been a visible organization. And so since I took the mantle of the organization, I decided that visibility, relevance, value added, all of these words were things that I would work with, you know, in my vision for what I want the organization to be. And so I realized when I came in that we had a mandate with regard to protection of the Caribbean Sea. We are the only international organization with that mandate. And so because there is buy-in with regard to protection of the Caribbean Sea, everything else that we do, we have to make the Caribbean Sea the focus. And so you have to market, repackage, resell the vision many times to heads, because you would imagine that what's happening in the world can be a distraction. So you have to every time go back. And if you're not willing to resell yourself and make yourself relevant, then it becomes very difficult. With regard to trade, we have many challenges in the region with regard to trade. First of all, you must have something to trade. But we are because of what we do, we actually do trade development. So we help the countries to build capacity. We also concentrate on ensuring that ports are well managed to facilitate efficient trade. So these are the things that we can do for the countries with regard to trade. But more than that, because of the fact that we have such a broad membership, we are able to be the connector between a lot of these countries. So we are able to bring people who have goods to trade and people who want to buy them together. And I think that is the value added of the organization.
Now, as the new Secretary General to the organization, obviously you come with your particular passions. And while the mandate is set out by the member states, you know what your strengths are and where you can make use of those opportunities. What would you say is one particular area that, as Secretary General, you will ensure is a part of your focus?
Well, you're asking me about my legacy and what I want my legacy to be. And I have said it 101 times already. I want my legacy to be about water. First of all, because of the fact that I'm an island woman and I saw the sea all the time, protection of the Caribbean Sea is very important to me. And more than that, because of the fact that the Caribbean has two seasons, the wet season and the dry season. And during the wet season, we have too much water, and during the dry season, we don't have enough. I want to be able to make a difference so that we always have the water that we need. So we deal with a lot of disaster risk reduction, preventing the floodings and so on. And during drought, trying to make sure that people have water, either through ensuring that we do desalination plants or other such infrastructure for people. I am extremely passionate about many things to do with the Caribbean Sea. And one of the things is I really do not want to see dumping of garbage in the Caribbean Sea.
And that's a huge problem in our country.
And so it's one of the things I will go after. But more than that, I think that as a woman, I think I have an obligation to ensure that the work that I undertake affect women, especially women are one of the more vulnerable groups when you look at all of my various areas. So I'm ensuring that women are mainstreamed into my work program. I'm ensuring that youth, I like young people. I think they keep you young. And so I am ensuring that youth is mainstreamed also into the program. And because I said that I think that this organization must be more visible, communication is also part of my mandate for my organization, to make sure that we are visible and people see us.
Well, and in a lot of ways, the way that you can do that is with partnerships. I know you mentioned that you met with 5 Seeds earlier. Tell us a little bit about the other organizations that...
Well, we have a lot of partnerships. Our organization has partnerships with, quite apart from our member states. We have 27 observer states from all over the world. So we are really and truly not only a regional organization, we are a global association. And we have partnerships with people all over the world. For example, one of our major projects that we have just brought into the organization, a $5 million US project from South Korea. That's a partnership. And we are working with the development agencies, COICA, and the marine agencies to ensure that we have that done well. But we are doing that jointly with a number of other regional organizations, for example, SITMA, which in Cuba, which actually conceptualized the project. And we are working with every single country. It's our biggest project ever. We are touching every country on the perimeter of the Caribbean Sea. All of our full members, our associate members, we are working with the Netherlands for their associate members. We are working with the French for their associate members. It will be a comprehensive project. Then we work in Mexico, has been a very big supporter of the organization. And so we work with a number of development organizations in Mexico. So like people like INEGI and MEXID, we have a lot of projects with them. The Mexicans, as I said, have been very generous. And again, we just came from Cancun, and the president has made it very clear in every speech that he gave that the Caribbean was at the forefront of his agenda. We work with Central America, CEPRADENAC. So we work with partners throughout. We also have a number of regional organizations that are part of our founding membership. Organizations like CARICOM. Remember that the ACS is the brainchild of CARICOM. So we work with CARICOM, we work with SIECA, you know, a lot of the regional organizations. So we are well placed then. We are the organization that you should come to if you want to meet with everybody else. So.
Now, I want to go back to the issue of climate change for just a second, because I think when you speak, and we hear the passion when you speak about the Caribbean Sea and how it unites us and it can be a united cause for all of us. Now, the issues when it comes to climate change is one that it affects all of us, but we have been seeing where a lot of unpredictability about what kind of resources we're able to have through the Caribbean Sea, how we need to protect it. And I think different islands and different countries have different experiences. What's the particular platform you would say you have in terms of approaching climate change, especially with all the uncertainty that currently exists?
Well, I think there's a certain amount of certainty, not only uncertainty. We are certain that climate change is affecting us.
Yeah.
And we can see it in many different areas. We don't even have to sell it. We live it. We can see it in the hurricanes that are more intense and more frequent. We can see it in the sea level rise that's affecting our coastlines. We can see it in the acidification of the sea that's bleaching our corals. We see it in the invasive species like sargassum and the lionfish that's destroying our biodiversity. So it's not a very difficult thing to sell. What we have to do, however, is to ensure that we are at the table when finance is being discussed. We must make sure that we have access to all of the global funding that is available to us to make sure that we are able to adapt, mitigate, etc., a lot of the impacts of climate change.
Just allow me to qualify there, because when we speak of uncertainty, I believe, and the Caribbean has proven that we can speak about the effects of climate change. However, we're not the ones with the largest carbon footprint. And
No.
we've seen where, with all the success of the Paris Agreement, we have countries now kind of doing a double step. Obviously, the United States is one that we can identify, where all the efforts that have been made to show, look, this is our reality, this is what we're dealing with, seems to now not be as much a concern as it used to be.
It's still a concern.
It is a concern for us,
Yes,
but
it is a
to the
concern
right
for
years.
us.
Yeah.
Yes, we have always been, especially the small island developing states, it was a hard sell for us in the beginning. I was there when we were doing the early COPs, and we did not have buy-in from most countries. The fact that some countries are starting, well, one country in particular is backtracking on it is a little worrying for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that the global support that you have for Paris, the Paris Agreement, will overcome a lot of the challenges that we will face from one country saying that climate change is a myth. And so I think that the rest of the world will move ahead. That is my prediction. And I'm not into weather reporting, but I can predict that one. That the rest of the world will move ahead with the changes. I mean, some of the countries are already disappearing in the Pacific. The greatest barrier reef, the largest in the world, Australia, is experiencing so much bleaching. I think that we have a chance to make the second largest and the living barrier reef in the region, that is the one here. We can put steps in place just by us and how we live. You know, we can ourselves start at home by ensuring that we stop all of the pollution from the land, because it's a lot of man-made pollution that's affecting the sea also. So we have to put measures in place to ensure that these things do not enter the rivers and the ports, and that we protect our marine areas. I think Belize is doing a wonderful job in terms of marine protection and ensuring that people are aware of these things, and ensuring that there is that education program. So we have to start at home, and then the global finance will help us to repair the damage that the rest of us are not doing. Our carbon footprint, as you said, is very small. Other people, I mean, the biggest emitters have agreed that they need to do something. Yeah. And so, as I said, I think that some people will have to just fall in line with what's going on.
And I think that's a really important part of the conversation. And as it relates to the Caribbean Sea, we could think about issues that are a little bit more close to home. We think, especially with the Belize-Guatemala dispute. How does the ACS chime in on a conversation that's highly political as that one, but very closely related to one of your key areas?
Our organization, as I said earlier, is not a political one.
Right.
But we do have heads of government involved. And so we encourage through our dialogue for there to be open conversation. The ACS has declared the region a zone of peace. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what we encourage is for people to talk, to make sure that we remain that zone of peace. And so the ACS has many different border disputes within its membership. And we do not see that when we get to the table. Mm-hmm. You see people trying to cooperate, trying to ensure that issues like that are resolved in a peaceful manner, in a manner that would benefit everybody. And I think that is one of the advantages of being in such an organization. The fact that the political really does not affect the things that you do. Let me put one on the table that I know that everybody will be wondering about. Mm-hmm. For example, right now my chairmanship is held by Venezuela. Venezuela is doing everything in its capacity to ensure that the ACS is not affected by the global perspective on Venezuela. And so the ACS continues to run. Yes, we recognize the challenges that our membership faces. And we never think that things are running smoothly in any of our member states. Yeah. So Venezuela is not the only one that has challenges. We have challenges throughout the membership. The fact that the focus is on Venezuela right now and that Venezuela is our chair, I can tell you, has not affected the way the organization runs. So
I think that's a very important point, and obviously in the midst of what I would call your acquaintance tour, or being able to check in with the different member states, and perhaps as a start to your work as Secretary General, what are you finding to be some of the priority areas that we have in common within the members of the ACS? With all the diversity that exists, the size of the economies, the size of the countries, the different cultures, languages, what are some of the commonalities that we're sharing?
I think that we have more in common than we think. Mm-hmm. And language is not the biggest problem that we have. Mm-hmm. We think that the language differences should be embraced. Mm-hmm. And so, which is why we do things in different languages, and we encourage people to speak the different languages. Yeah. But I think that with regard to similarities, we all want the same thing for our countries and our people. Mm-hmm. Progress, sustainable development. And so I think that these platforms and these frameworks help the ACS to be able to be more effective, because we have these common platforms. Mm-hmm. And so we do things for our members that would help them to build their capacity. All countries, despite their size and their resources, need more capacity to do work. We need more innovation. Yeah. We need to do things more efficiently. We can always learn from each other. We always think, for example, that ours is the worst. I was the ambassador to CARICOM and OECS, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, we need to do a lot of work at CARICOM. And that was until I went to the ACS. So I am saying that sometimes we are a little hard on ourselves. Yeah. And one of the things that I want to do within my organization, and for the next 3 years that I am there, because although you say I'm young in the organization, it's 8 months already, fast, and it is going fast. I want to pursue the conversation around the pursuit of excellence. Mm-hmm. We have produced, to use a word from a friend of mine, we have produced magnificence in this region. Mm-hmm. I have a room in the ACS that is full of Nobel laureates. Mm-hmm. And we have to use people who have excelled to show that we can excel. Success breeds success. If we keep telling ourselves that we are not any good, then we will not achieve the greatness that is within all of us in the region. And we have achieved greatness. I come from a very small country, 238 square miles. We have produced 2 Nobel laureates. We have had a 3rd nominated. And I'm using that example to say that every country has that greatness within it. And we produce people who function at the highest level globally. So there is no doubt that we produce excellent people. We concentrate on things that are negative because it is just human nature to do that. But I want to change the conversation. Earlier I said that I wanted to include, to mainstream youth into our organization. One of the things that we are trying to do is to make young people aware of what they have and what they should protect and how they should strive for that greatness. And so one of the things that we are going to do within our Caribbean Sea Commission and the protection of the Caribbean Sea is to set up a youth champions group for the Caribbean Sea, for them to advocate on behalf of the Caribbean Sea globally among the environmental groups, you know, in different fora that youth have access to. And so we are starting to make contact, and very soon we'll be launching a project with them on that.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I was just about to ask you to tell us a little bit about the project initiatives that ACS has established.
Well, that one in particular, which is the monitoring of the coastal erosion, sandy shorelines project. As I said, it's our most comprehensive program. We are going to be putting monitors in different countries so that we can see the impact of sea level rise on our coastlines. And not just sea level rise, because there are different reasons why coastlines would be affected. And one of them have to do with our own man-made activities like sand mining, etc. So we want the young people to be involved with such a program, because it is a foundation project. It is finding the science to deal with the various adaptation projects that we'll undertake. And we want young people to have buy-in from the beginning in that kind of project, so that, because they are the ones who will be undertaking these projects in the long run. It is their future.
For sure.
And so we want them to know that. We are looking for ultimate youth champions, to people with a global face, young people in the region with a global face. And we are trying to attract a couple of them to come to the program to advocate with us at the level of the UN, at the level of the countries, and so on. And one of the things about foundation projects that I think that young people will find exciting is the science. The nexus between science and policy at the ACS is our advantage in the region. So a lot of the information that we have, because it's hard facts and statistics, it helps decision makers to make more informed decisions. And so young people, we can involve them a lot in our data gathering and ensuring that they can see how the efforts evolve into concrete policies for the countries.
And I think that would be a great initiative, because a lot of times young people are so innocently unaware of what's happening at a national level, and even more so at a regional level. So I think that's quite important, you know, especially working with the Department of Youth Services. You know that national issues are completely obsolete in their mind. So that would be amazing.
Well, I think that we have different types of youth. And we have, throughout the region, we have young people involved in environmental work. Being part of the various corps over the years, I have seen the number of young people who come to these meetings, who form groups. Sometimes they need help. They need you to build partnerships with them. They need you to build capacity for the groups. They need you to give them direction.
And empower them.
Yes, exactly. For them to be able to do the things that they should do, instead of us, the older ones, just complaining that young people don't get involved, and young people, you know, I think that we have to ensure that we prepare them. So.
And show them the opportunities that do exist. One of the things you said earlier, which I think is so absolutely important, is championing our own heroes.
Yes.
And you are absolutely right. There have been numerous successful persons coming out of the Caribbean, influencing even the technology that we use today. When you talk about touchscreens, we have Caribbean people who work with NASA, who do cancer research. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but we don't talk about them very often, and we don't herald them as a united Caribbean body. I appreciate that you pointed out, and I just want to follow up in terms of what would you do as Secretary General to ensure that this is something that becomes a part of the conversation across the Caribbean, and especially when we're talking about young people. If young people know what somebody from Trinidad or somebody from Belize or somebody from Barbados can achieve, it helps to give them that drive to know that they can do the same.
Yes. I said earlier that success breeds success.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that. I am a historian, also I'm a teacher. I am involved with young people. I am a mentor. And so from the perspective of the organization, we have already started the conversation with regard to celebrating our people. So earlier this year, for example, we did a tribute to Fidel Castro that was broadcast and streamed, and people saw it in different countries. Yeah. Yesterday, I went to the Golson House, and it brought back a lot of to me about history with regard to how leadership evolved in the region. And people think that we have just arrived at this place and they don't understand the struggle that we have had to go through. I think that one of the things you must do, first of all, is to make young people understand the history.
Yeah.
It is important because it helps to build their identity. You are a Caribbean person and you have to be proud that you're a Caribbean person. Wherever I go to, I am a Caribbean person.
And not just for delicious food.
Oh, no.
And great music.
But then, even then, we excel at all of these things. We take them for granted, you know. But we have excelled in influencing the world with regard to food, with regard to music, with regard to our culture, our way of life. You think that all of these tourists come down here just by chance? They understand the quality of life that we have. And so we also must appreciate the things that we have and look at them and protect them and market them, you know, in a sustainable way. So we have started the conversation about excellence. As I said, we are mainstreaming all of these things into our work programs. We want to start a lecture series on excellence, and we are hoping to start that by our anniversary date, which is the 24th of July. We are moving towards our 25th. We are young, but I think that 25 is a nice, mature age for us to show that we have done things. And so we are trying to move that conversation so that by the time I leave, I want us to be talking about excellence and how we can do things better and how we can do things better together.
Well, Dr. Sumori, we know that you've been here since Sunday. I can imagine the trip has been quite a productive one. Any final things that you're planning while you're here in Belize? I'm not talking business. We're talking leisure here.
Well, I did go to the pyramid. The ruins.
Okay. Yeah.
The word is very difficult.
St. Anthony.
Yes. And I actually climbed.
The whole thing?
I didn't go right to the top,
okay,
but I got as far as I wanted to go.
Enough for a good view.
Enough to see, you know.
And some nice pictures.
Yes.
For
yes. It was very nice. So since landing here, if you ask my staff, I have been like a child because there's been so much excitement over the history. The fact that Belize is preserving all of these ruins, that history and archaeology is so alive in the country, that people are celebrating, like at the Golson House, people are celebrating their people. I think that has been the most exciting thing for me, apart from the work that I have done. And I'm very enthusiastic about my work. I enjoy what I do. But I think that for me, that part of Belize, and I love the way that Belize is developing its tourism product. Its emphasis, you know, on ensuring sustainability is really good. And it's a country that I would encourage people to come back to again and again. The next time I come, I'm going to the coast.
Okay.
I haven't been to the coast. I have been inland, you know,
Yeah.
on all of my visits.
Which is quite different from the normal tourist. Most people gravitate
Yeah,
towards
because I don't come as a tourist. I come to work.
Right, of course.
So the next time I come, I'm coming as a tourist.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
We
So that I
appreciate
can
that.
enjoy. And I think that, I think for Belize, I would like to tell them to continue on that vein and to recognize that the ACS is a space where their voice can be even louder because of our membership. So I encourage more participation.
Well, we appreciate you stopping in on your very short visit to Belize, and the next time you're back, you're welcome back on set as well.
Of course, thank you very much.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by representatives of Santiago Castillo to talk about World Milk Days.